So let's answer the question that made you click on this video. Is this challenge worth completing? Hey everyone, what's up? Kozuro here. Marc Brunet is an amazing artist and an art teacher who posted this 1-year art program in December 2022, which I decided to follow. In this video, I'll take you on this new art journey I experienced, showing how I went from this to this in 1 year. I'll talk of various things about this challenge, which are all detailed by the timestamps in the description, so you can quickly jump to the parts you are most interested in. Starting with why I chose to engage in this program. Everyone has already joined something in their life, whether it be as a professional, just an art enthusiast, or even as a 4-year-old illustrating a fight between dragons and mermaids in the sea? Wait, what the fuck? Personally, I started taking drawing seriously when I was about 12, and I had a lot. I mean, an enormous amount of work to do before I would finally be able to make a decent piece. Since then, I've always drawn traditionally and was able to achieve a pretty respectable level in my opinion. However, as an artist who preferred color to line art, the color wheel of Photoshop, which offered limitless possibilities, and Sam's propaganda for digital painting caught my attention. And when I spotted Marc's video in my YouTube feed, I thought, holy scribbity-cat-doo-doo, it'd be such a good idea to follow this program in order to work on my fundamentals while I get used to painting in Photoshop. That's why and how I started digital art in January of 2023. Now let me take you on this 1-year trip where you'll see the difficulties I faced, the progress I made, as well as the tips and tricks to successfully complete this challenge and step up your drawing skills. With this, let's first see how my experience of trying out this 1-year schedule turned out. As you've been able to see, I already had some basics in drawing when I transitioned to digital art. Nevertheless, the feeling of painting digitally and traditionally was completely different, and following Marc's program, my first experience of digital art was a 5-minute gesture drawing which looked like this. And I was like, no, digital painting can't be this hard, right? It's only the first drawing I make, I'll quickly get used to it, haha, lol, XD. So you know what I did? I drew another one, and another, and another. Why the fuck am I so bad at this? It was so annoying feeling like a 4-year-old again, so I drew another 60 gestures, and I still wasn't very comfortable with neither Photoshop nor my tablet, which by the way is a Wacom Intuos Pro S. But I also did these 2 copy drawings, which reassured me about my ability to draw. And with January completed, I was full of confidence to tackle the next 11 most productive months of my life. Whoa! Before I introduce some of the special exercises we had to do monthly, I'll quickly go over my progression in gesture drawings from February to November, because we had to do some almost every month. I will show the evolution of my gestures along the year, while explaining what they are and why they can be useful. Gesture drawings are basically simplified copies of a person's full body picture, focusing on proportions and, most importantly, the flow of the pose. In Marc's program, they were varying from 2 to 10 minutes, so I had to change the amount of details depending on the time I had. Making a ton of gesture drawings definitely helped me improve the flow of my character's poses and increase the confidence I had when drawing bodies and just drawing digitally in general. However, you'll need to do the anatomy studies and exercises Marc recommends in order to build a foundation, so you won't repeat the same mistakes again and again on your gestures, wondering why your anatomy looks so off. These types of drawing can also be great warm-ups to kind of put you in the mood of drawing, since they're often quick, and you can feel productive drawing them, which is motivating too. And here's the first gesture drawing of the year versus the last one. I'd say that's a big improvement. So that's it for the gestures. Now let me show you some of the month-specific exercises we had to make. First, let's see my progression on the general themes we had to work on throughout the year. For background, in February, March and May, we had 3 exercises where we painted scenes with respectively 1 and 2 perspective points, as well as environment studies. You can see I still wasn't completely familiar with digital background making, because the gouache one looks better in my opinion, even though I never used gouache. However, with the 3 perspective point scene we have to make in June, I think we can see a bit of improvement, but I was hardly using any references, which I thought was the point because we had to create the scene. And I really advise you not to make the same mistake as me. Using references isn't cheating. It actually can be extremely useful to learn how to choose them wisely and use them properly. If you want to create your own original environment or painting in general, gather many references that all have at least one thing you want to integrate in your drawing. It could be a special lighting scenario, a composition or a specific object you like, and combine them in your drawing. This will help you learn to draw stuff you like from imagination later on. In summer, I drew many digital art pieces and some had a background which was way better than the ones I just displayed. This shows how much I improved in background painting thanks to Mark's program. Next on the list are characters. Even though I progressed a lot and was able to make the works you just saw in summer, these took me at the very least 9 hours each, and I had a lot of trouble making shorter drawings, as you can see with these ones I drew in June, which were terrible. Horrendous, atrocious even. But thanks to Mark's framework and the humongous amount of gesture drawings, I was able to make some pretty decent ones only 3 months later. We also had to work on animal drawing and creature designing, but I wasn't very interested in this, so the studies are pretty bad. I made a video on this, by the way, so if you want to check it out, feel free to do so. Now for some more specific tasks we had to complete. A fun exercise we had to do was changing a popular character's outfit. So I made Lu Guang from Shiguang Dailiren in a sort of roaming samurai outfit. But I also committed a crime against my friend's OC, Karma, who usually looks like this. Really cool character design with a lot of intricate details, such as the fact that he's addicted to coffee because he doesn't sleep much. So it's obvious that I had to draw him as a cafe maid. And I remember sending the drawing to my friend by message and I could feel through the phone how embarrassed he was, but cracking up at the same time. It was so funny, cause yeah, I gotta admit it looked pretty damn goofy. In October, the only instruction we had was to complete or at least take part in a community art challenge. It was all planned by Mark because in October occurs the Inktober, a challenge where you have to make a drawing every day based on a given theme that changes daily. I won't show all the 31 drawings, but here are my favorites. Finally, in November, one of the things we had to do was to create a short comic of at least 3 panels. I wasn't able to complete it, but I still think it's an interesting exercise, especially for someone who never did any type of comics. So I show it to you before moving on to my thoughts on the program and making the final illustration. So let's answer the question that made you click on this video. Is this challenge worth completing? Drumroll please. Well, it depends. The thing is, it can be useful for anyone, except the masters of course. You just have to rearrange it depending on your level. If this really is your first or second year of drawing, well, congrats! You probably came across the best free video you could find to progress this year, since it was made for you. If you feel like some exercises are way too easy or are things you already studied for hours, try aiming for the drawing practices that cover things you don't know how to do or would like to progress in. You can also spice up the challenge by adding additional exercises that you could find on Mark's channel, for example. For me, the real advantage of this schedule is it fights very well against my f***ing procrastination, and it could fight yours too. So that's why I recommend following it even if you have to change it a bit, because even if it doesn't fit your level perfectly, it's better to draw things you know how to draw than not drawing at all. So to summarize, you should follow this framework if 1. You want to improve your drawing skills, of course. 2. You have no or little money, because there are a lot of paid courses out there that are more complete and could make you better faster. Just like Mark's one, for example. And 3. You're a beginner or you're more advanced than a beginner, but you procrastinate. And you can add harder and more specialized exercises too. Now hear me out for some tips and tricks on how to successfully complete this challenge, based on my experience of it. First, try not skipping any exercises you plan to do, or you may fall into the procrastination hole and it's gonna end with your doom. Second, if you want to change some exercises of the program because they don't suit you, make sure to prepare your rearranged version before before you start the challenge and stick to it. Otherwise, it's gonna end with your doom. And third but not least, if you don't follow tip 1, pat yourself on the back, it's okay, it's not the end of the world, just don't give up and keep drawing. You can still delay exercises into the next month, just don't delay more than 1 or 2 exercises, or it's gonna end with you. Alright, that's all for the tips and tricks. And before we move on to the last challenge of this art program, if you are following it right now or you already completed it, make sure to share your experience with everyone down in the comments. I would absolutely love to read them all and just see what you guys went through with this. Now let's see what I was truly able to achieve following Mark's 1-year schedule. With December came the last challenge, creating a thoroughly rendered full-body illustration of an original character with a background too. So I made this, which is not a bad drawing honestly, but I wasn't completely satisfied with the result. Not only because the character I created didn't have any background or purpose, but also because the illustration itself didn't have any real background either. So I decided to create another one with a character I've been thinking about for a while now, Shinju. Shinju seems just like any other 18-year-old girl in her town, except she doesn't know who her parents are, so she has grown up in an orphanage with her childhood friend, Bob. Just kidding, he doesn't have a name for now. They both love kendo and have been training together since they were 8. However, recently Shinju has developed mixed feelings for her friend, who is now becoming her crush. Sorry to all childhood friends watching this video, by the way. One day, she realizes she can't hold back her feelings anymore and invites him on a date. And it's her outfit on this date that I'm drawing in the background. At the end of the date, she takes him to the top of a building, where they can see the sun setting. She takes a deep breath before sitting next to him, ready to confess everything. But just as her lips form the first whisper, an explosion echoes. The building cracks and Shinju falls, her lover unable to catch her arm. What's gonna happen next? Find out in the next episode. Before I present you the fully finished piece, feel free to tell me in the comments if you want a video where I reveal the rest of her story and develop her character a bit more. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe if you are enjoying this video. Now this is the accomplishment of a full year's work. Alright everyone, thank you very much for watching this video till the end. I hope you enjoyed it or that it was useful for you in some way. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Alright, see ya!